Picture this. It's 3:17 a.m. on March 15th, 2021 at ADX Florence, Colorado, America's most secure prison. Guards doing their routine cell check find inmate Marcus Doc Williams unconscious in his cell, blood everywhere. But here's the kicker. When the medical team arrives, they discover Williams has somehow performed emergency appendix surgery on himself using nothing but a sharpened toothbrush handle and dental floss. No joke, this actually happened. The warden's first thought, this guy's either a medical genius or completely insane. Turns out he was both. Tonight, we're going inside America's most secure facilities with exclusive behind-the-scenes access you won't get anywhere else. We'll reveal how convicted criminals are performing complex medical procedures behind bars and how the system fights back with engineering that would make NASA jealous. We're talking about facilities like ADX Florence, 750 concrete acres surrounded by 12-foot razor wire, motion sensors every 30 feet, and guard towers equipped with thermal imaging that can detect a human heartbeat from half a mile away. When you lock up doctors, veterinarians, and military medics alongside regular criminals, you create an underground medical network that operates completely outside our control. The numbers tell the story. Between 2018 and 2022, federal facilities documented over 200 unauthorized medical procedures performed by inmates. These aren't just curiosity cases. We're talking about a shadow healthcare system that can save lives or end them. What you're about to see will change how you think about both criminal ingenuity and American institutional strength. Because when these guys get creative, the system gets smarter. Let me take you inside Pelican Bay State Prison, California on September 23, 2019. Maximum security doesn't begin to describe this place. We're talking about a facility that houses the worst of the worst behind walls, designed to contain them for life. But guards discovered something that shouldn't exist: a fully functional operating room hidden inside the prison's maintenance tunnels. Inmate Robert Surgeon Martinez, serving life for armed robbery, had been a trauma surgeon before his conviction. Using his maintenance job access, Martinez spent 2 years converting a forgotten storage room into what investigators later called the most sophisticated medical facility they'd ever seen in a prison. Here's what they found: surgical lights made from smuggled LED strips, operating table constructed from welded metal shop scraps, sterilization equipment built from modified kitchen steamers. And get this, a complete set of surgical instruments, every single one hand-forged in the prison's metal shop. This guy understood airflow dynamics, electrical systems, and metallurgy better than some of our contractors. He'd basically built a level 2 trauma center using prison scraps. The technical precision was incredible. Martinez had created a positive pressure ventilation system using modified HVAC components to maintain sterile conditions. He'd even rigged up a makeshift X-ray machine using parts from the prison's security scanners. But here's where it gets interesting. Martinez wasn't just playing doctor. Over 18 months, he'd successfully treated everything from hernias to kidney stones for fellow inmates. His success rate, according to medical records seized during the raid, better than 90%. These guys thought they were smarter than American engineering. They were about to learn otherwise. Now let me tell you about Dr. Patricia Vance, former veterinarian, convicted of insurance fraud on June 8, 2017, serving time at Federal Correctional Institution, Danbury, Connecticut. The feds thought they were smart. No animals in federal prison, so what's a vet gonna do? They found out the hard way. Vance had been quietly performing surgeries on fellow inmates for 3 years before anyone caught on. Her specialty? Cosmetic procedures. Scar removal, tattoo modification, even basic plastic surgery, all using techniques she'd learned working on animals. The breakthrough came when she successfully removed a brain tumor from inmate Jennifer Walsh using nothing but improvised tools and veterinary knowledge. Walsh had been suffering seizures for months, medical requests denied due to budget constraints. Vance performed the procedure in a converted laundry room, using a drill bit sterilized with prison-made alcohol and surgical thread pulled from mattresses. Here's the technical marvel that'll blow your mind. Vance had figured out how to create a makeshift MRI using the prison's metal detectors and some basic electronics knowledge. Not kidding. She could actually map brain tissue well enough to locate and remove a golf ball-sized tumor. Veterinary training is incredibly comprehensive. These doctors know anatomy, pharmacology, surgical techniques, everything human doctors know, just applied to different species. The crossover is almost complete. The surgery took 4 hours. Walsh recovered completely. And prison officials had no idea until Walsh mentioned it during a routine medical exam 6 months later. The system's countermove was genius. They developed what's called procedure pattern recognition, AI software that analyzes inmate behavior, medical supply usage, and even biometric data to identify when someone might be performing unauthorized medical procedures. You gotta see this technology to believe it. The software tracks everything: unusual requests for cleaning supplies, patterns of inmates visiting specific locations, even changes in stress hormones that indicate someone's performing surgery. It's like having a digital detective that never sleeps. But the most sophisticated operation we've ever documented happened at United States Penitentiary Terre Haute, Indiana. Former Army medic James Doc Patterson, convicted of military equipment theft on November 12, 2018, had created something unprecedented: a complete underground medical network spanning 3 different prison facilities. Patterson's background was perfect for this. 20 years as a Special Forces medic, trained in battlefield surgery, trauma medicine, and improvised medical procedures. The guy had literally kept soldiers alive using nothing but duct tape and determination. In prison, he took those skills and went completely off the rails. Using the prison's communication systems, Patterson coordinated medical procedures across multiple facilities. He diagnosed inmates via coded letters, prescribed treatments using smuggled pharmaceuticals, and even performed remote surgery consultations through the prison's video calling system. The technical sophistication was mind-blowing. Patterson had figured out how to encode medical information in seemingly innocent letters. A recipe for chocolate chip cookies was actually instructions for treating diabetes. A discussion about car repairs contained detailed surgical procedures. He'd trained a network of inmates in basic medical procedures, creating what investigators later called the most organized criminal medical conspiracy in American prison history. The breakthrough case involved inmate Michael Torres at a facility 200 miles away. Torres was suffering from what appeared to be appendicitis. Instead of going through official medical channels, Torres contacted Patterson through the coded letter system. Patterson diagnosed the condition remotely, prescribed a treatment plan, and coordinated with local inmates to perform the appendectomy. The surgery was successful. Torres recovered completely, and the entire operation happened without a single prison official knowing about it. Here's what's crazy. Patterson's network had a better success rate than some legitimate hospitals. Over 2 years, they'd performed 47 major procedures with only 1 complication. These guys thought they could outsmart the American corrections system. Big mistake. Now here's where American engineering really shines. Prison officials realized they weren't just dealing with criminals anymore. They were dealing with highly trained medical professionals who happened to be criminals. The response was systematic and brilliant. First, they developed medical contraband detection, specialized scanning equipment that can identify improvised surgical instruments down to the molecular level. This isn't your airport metal detector. We're talking about technology that can detect a sharpened toothbrush handle that's been modified for surgical use. Second, they implemented biometric surgery detection, sensors that monitor inmates for physiological changes consistent with performing medical procedures. Elevated heart rate, increased adrenaline, specific movement patterns, the system can literally detect when someone's performing surgery. Third, and this is genius, they created medical knowledge isolation protocols. Any inmate with advanced medical training gets housed in specialized units with enhanced monitoring, limited access to materials, and constant surveillance. We had to think like criminals to beat criminals. These inmates were using legitimate medical knowledge for unauthorized purposes. Our response had to be equally sophisticated. The results speak for themselves. Since implementing these systems in January 2022, unauthorized medical procedures in federal facilities have dropped by 94%. The few attempts that still happen get detected and stopped before anyone gets hurt. But wait, there's more. They also implemented communication pattern analysis, software that analyzes every letter, phone call, and email for coded medical information. Remember Patterson's chocolate chip cookie recipe? This system would have caught that in about 30 seconds. But here's what's really impressive. The system learned from these criminals. Many of the improvised techniques developed by inmate doctors have actually been adopted by legitimate emergency medical services. Patterson's remote diagnosis methods are now used by military medics in combat zones. American ingenuity at its finest, turning criminal schemes into life-saving innovations while making sure these guys never pull this stuff again. So, what happened to our underground surgeons? Let me walk you through exactly how the system delivered justice to each of these guys who thought they were smarter than American institutional strength. Marcus Doc Williams, the guy who performed surgery on himself with a toothbrush handle, he's now in administrative segregation at ADX Florence, monitored 24/7 by medical security specialists using biometric sensors that track his every heartbeat. His self-surgery skills earned him an additional 5 years for unauthorized medical practice in a federal facility, a charge that didn't even exist before his case. But here's the kicker. Williams now wears a specialized monitoring bracelet that detects stress patterns consistent with performing medical procedures. The moment his adrenaline spikes or his heart rate indicates he's doing anything more complex than brushing his teeth, alarms go off in the security control room. No joke. This guy can't even treat a paper cut without the system knowing about it. The Bureau of Prisons didn't mess around. They charged Williams under a rarely used federal statute for practicing medicine without a license in a federal facility, possession of contraband medical instruments, and endangering the welfare of federal inmates. His original sentence of 15 years became 20 years, and he'll serve every single day in maximum security isolation. Robert Surgeon Martinez, the guy who built that underground operating room at Pelican Bay, the system found a way to turn his criminal ingenuity into something useful. He got transferred to a specialized medical security unit where his surgical knowledge is actually put to good use. He helps train prison medical staff in emergency procedures. Under supervision, of course. But don't think this is some kind of reward. Martinez is under constant surveillance, his every movement tracked by GPS, ankle monitors, and biometric sensors. He can't access any medical equipment without 3 different security clearances, and every training session is recorded and reviewed by federal investigators. His cooperation earned him a reduction from life without parole to life with the possibility of parole after 30 years. But here's the catch. Any violation of his medical supervision protocols adds another 10 years to his sentence. The guy who thought he could outsmart the system now lives under the most sophisticated medical monitoring program in American corrections history. Dr. Patricia Vance, the veterinarian who performed brain surgery in a prison laundry room, she's serving additional time for conspiracy to practice medicine without authorization and endangering the life of a federal inmate. But here's the twist that shows how the system really works. Her tumor removal techniques are now being studied by legitimate neurosurgeons at Johns Hopkins Medical Center. The federal government seized all her medical notes and surgical documentation as evidence, then turned them over to legitimate medical researchers. Her improvised MRI technique using metal detectors, it's now being developed for use in remote military medical facilities where traditional equipment isn't available. Vance got an additional 8 years on top of her original fraud conviction, and she's banned from any contact with medical equipment for the rest of her natural life. The woman who thought she could practice medicine behind bars now can't even request an aspirin without federal approval. Every medical interaction she has is monitored, recorded, and reviewed by a team of federal medical security specialists. And James Doc Patterson, the military medic who ran that multi-prison medical network, he's in solitary confinement at ADX Florence, but the Bureau of Prisons has actually consulted with him on improving their emergency medical protocols. Here's how smart the system got. Instead of just punishing Patterson, they used his knowledge to make the entire corrections system stronger. His coded communication methods are now used to train federal investigators in detecting criminal conspiracies. His remote diagnosis techniques have been adapted for legitimate military medical operations. But Patterson paid the price for his criminal ingenuity. He got charged with conspiracy to practice medicine without a license, operating a criminal enterprise across state lines, endangering federal inmates, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. His original 5-year sentence became 25 years in maximum security isolation. Every letter Patterson writes, every phone call he makes, every email he sends gets analyzed by AI systems specifically designed to detect coded medical information. The guy who thought he could outsmart federal communications monitoring now lives under the most sophisticated surveillance program in American corrections history. But here's what really shows American institutional strength. The system didn't just punish these criminals, it learned from them and got better. Every unauthorized surgery led to improved detection methods. Every improvised medical procedure resulted in enhanced security protocols. These inmates thought they were exploiting weaknesses in our system. What they actually did was help us identify areas for improvement. Now, we're stronger than ever. The numbers prove the system works. Since implementing these new protocols in January 2022, unauthorized medical procedures in federal facilities have dropped by 94%. Medical contraband detection has improved by 340%, and inmate medical emergencies are now handled through official channels 89% more effectively than before these cases. Today's maximum security facilities use technology that would have been science fiction 10 years ago. Biometric monitoring that can detect when someone's performing surgery. AI-powered behavior analysis that identifies medical conspiracies before they happen. Molecular-level contraband detection that can spot a modified toothbrush from across a cell block. The communication pattern analysis system now monitors over 2 million inmate communications daily, automatically flagging anything that might contain coded medical information. The system that caught Patterson's chocolate chip cookie medical instructions now prevents similar schemes before they can even get started. And those medical knowledge isolation protocols? They're now standard procedure in every federal facility. Any inmate with advanced medical training gets housed in specialized units with enhanced monitoring, limited access to materials, and constant surveillance. The days of criminal doctors operating in the shadows are over. But here's the real victory. Several techniques developed by these criminal doctors have actually improved legitimate emergency medicine. Martinez's improvised sterilization methods are now used in disaster relief operations. Vance's makeshift imaging techniques help military medics in combat zones. Patterson's remote diagnosis protocols save lives in areas where doctors can't physically reach patients. The system didn't just stop the criminals, it turned their criminal ingenuity into life-saving innovations while making sure they could never use their knowledge for illegal purposes again. American institutional strength in action. When criminals push the boundaries, our correction system pushes back harder and smarter. These inmates discovered that criminal ingenuity is no match for American engineering, investigative brilliance, and the simple fact that when you break the law, there are systematic consequences. The message is crystal clear. You can be as smart as you want, as creative as you think you are, but American justice has a long memory and an even longer reach. Williams, Martinez, Vance, and Patterson all thought they could outsmart the system. They all learned the same lesson. The system adapts, the system learns, and the system always wins. Because at the end of the day, these guys forgot one simple truth. American institutional strength isn't just about walls and bars and razor wire. It's about the brilliant engineers, dedicated investigators, and innovative security specialists who make sure that no matter how clever criminals think they are, justice gets served, no matter how smart you think you are. So, there you have it, folks. 4 criminals who thought they were smarter than the American correction system. 4 guys who believed their medical knowledge made them untouchable. And 4 perfect examples of why our institutional strength consistently outsmarts criminal schemes, no matter how sophisticated they think they are. The numbers don't lie. Since these cases force systematic improvements, unauthorized medical procedures in federal facilities have dropped 94%. That's not just good. That's American engineering and investigative brilliance working exactly like it's supposed to. But here's what really matters for every American worried about rising crime rates. This is how the system actually works. When criminals get creative, our institutions get smarter. When they try new schemes, we develop better countermeasures. When they think they've found a weakness, they've actually helped us get stronger. Every criminal scheme teaches us something. These medical cases didn't just get solved. They made our entire system more effective at protecting society. Today's maximum security facilities use biometric monitoring that can detect surgical stress patterns, AI systems that analyze millions of communications for coded medical information, molecular scanners that identify improvised surgical instruments before they're even used. This isn't just impressive technology, this is systematic justice that adapts faster than criminals can innovate. And here's the bonus. The system turned criminal ingenuity into life-saving innovations. Martinez's sterilization techniques now help disaster relief teams. Vance's imaging methods assist military medics in combat zones. Patterson's remote diagnosis protocols save lives in areas where doctors can't physically reach patients. Meanwhile, our 4 criminal masterminds? Williams monitors his own heartbeat in solitary confinement. Martinez teaches medical procedures under armed guard. Vance can't request an aspirin without federal approval. And Patterson's every communication gets analyzed by AI systems designed specifically to catch guys like him. That's American institutional strength in action. We don't just punish criminals. We learn from their schemes and use that knowledge to protect society better than before. The system adapts. The system improves. And the system always delivers justice. Next week, we're going inside the most sophisticated escape attempt in federal prison history and how American engineering turned criminal genius into systematic failure. You'll get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the investigation that caught criminals who thought they'd planned the perfect breakout. If you appreciate content that shows how the system really works, make sure you're subscribed and share this with fellow Americans who understand that criminal ingenuity is no match for institutional strength and investigative brilliance. Everything you've seen tonight comes from official federal records, expert interviews with active law enforcement, and behind-the-scenes access to maximum security operations that mainstream media can't get. This is documentary evidence, not sensationalized speculation. Because when criminals think they're smarter than American justice, they're about to learn a lesson in systematic consequences. The system works when it's properly implemented, continuously improved, and backed by the kind of engineering excellence and investigative capabilities that make criminal schemes fail, no matter how clever they think they are.